Jack, the Open Championship, in association with RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland Group. Even as a child, the competitive fire burned brightly within Jack William Nicklaus. Sport was his abiding passion, and to reach the highest standard, whatever the activity, was a constant dream. From an early age, golf became his obsession, and it was clear that this was a young man destined for greatness.
We couldn't deny his existence. He was so good that early on that he was playing with fellas older than he.
I think he just knew that, look, I'm really gifted. However people want to measure that, I don't know what it's going to be, but I just know I've got something special, and I'm going to play it and use it to the hilt.
I don't think there was ever a question about the fact that he was going to be good. I think that a lot of us didn't know for sure how good he was going to be.
Jack Nicklaus turned professional in January of 1962. Less than 20 months later, he had won 3 of the game's big 4, the Masters, the US Open, and the US PGA. Yet the oldest, most historic title of them all eluded him. This is the story of Jack and his love affair with the Open Championship. The early 60s were a golden era for the Open. 100 years old and reveling in a renaissance that saw the re-emergence of the game's greatest players at the game's oldest championship. Arnold Palmer had led that renaissance with victories in 61 and 62 at Troon, where a young, raw Jack Nicklaus experienced the Ayrshire rock-like fairways for the first time.
Well, Jack played very poorly at Troon in the first British Open he played in. He really had not experienced British golf to the degree that many like Arnold and others had. It showed him a different form of the game, the original form of the game. And of course, the golf courses were a totally different challenge.
I've always been a high ball hitter. I've been not necessarily the straightest driver in the world, but always had a lot of power. Being able to harness that power, being able to control it, being able to discipline myself to play seaside golf. And it's a game that you have miles of room to play in, but if you don't play it in the right place, you get burned.
Jack finished 29 strokes behind Palmer at Troon and suffered further heartache 12 months later at Royal Lytham, as he missed out on a playoff by the narrowest of margins.
It didn't shatter me. I don't get shattered by disappointments. Sure, I'm disappointed. And the disappointment is not that I lost the golf tournament. His disappointment is how I performed and lost it. Bogey in the last 2 holes to lose by 1 shot. That's the disappointment.
Jack was learning quickly that links golf is an acquired taste. He suffered another near miss a year later when he encountered the old course at St Andrews for the first time. Second place there was a bitter pill, as the oldest of championships became more and more elusive for the ambitious American.
He knew that you had to win the original, the oldest championship and the most international championship if you wanted to be regarded as a complete golfer. I think secretly, and it's only a thought, I think after the first 2 or 3 years, he began to doubt whether that might ever happen.
At Muirfield in 1966, those doubts remained and were shared by some sections of the media, even though this was a man with 5 major championships already to his name.
The press has their own opinion of what they think somebody is. And evidently they thought that the way I played golf, of hitting it up in the air and hitting it long, it was something that wasn't going to be necessary for good British golf. They didn't look at me as a golfer. I looked at myself as a golfer, and one that really wanted to play every type of golf that you could play and be successful at every type of golf. And that was why I was so determined to play well over here.
Muirfield The world's oldest golf club was a venue Jack was familiar with. As a 19-year-old, he had travelled there with his father, Charlie, for the 1959 Walker Cup matches, an experience that would prove invaluable in his quest for the old claret jug.
I loved the experience in '59. We had an east wind all week at Muirfield. And all during the practice for the Open in '66, we had a west wind until the last round. And then the wind switched back to the east, and I sort of felt like maybe I was the only one who had practiced in that. I remembered how the golf course played and how you had to play it under those conditions. So I had an advantage because of the Walker Cup. It seems sort of silly 7 years later, but I felt like I did. And when that changed around, all of a sudden it gave me the life and the feeling that says, hey, these guys haven't seen this, I have. This is going to be my day.
And indeed it was. Jack held his nerve on a tough final day to win by a single stroke and seal the career Grand Slam. No victory, he said, has ever made him more proud.
British Open's always been something a little special to me, and I never thought I'd get the opportunity to stand up here. You mind if I enjoy it for a minute, if I don't say anything?
He's not an extrovert. I wouldn't go as far as say he's an introvert either, but he's not an extroverted man, so he doesn't show emotion to the degree that many great achievers do, I mean, publicly. Beneath that sometimes seemingly cool exterior, there's a very warm guy.
We had some fun that evening. I didn't go out and try to see if I could fill up the claret jug with claret and drink it. I went out and had a good evening with my wife, and was very pleased with what I did, and look forward to the next golf tournament.
At the age of 26, the hands of Jack Nicklaus had held every major championship trophy, an achievement to make any father proud.
He was there every time he could and loved every minute of it, just loved being in the gallery and loved being a part of Jack's life, and Charlie was wonderful.
And what warmed Charlie's heart further was witnessing his son emulate the achievements of his hero, Bobby Jones. It was he who emphasized the importance of the majors and once said that for a player to be considered truly great, he must win all of the great championships.
Charlie Nicklaus was fascinated with Jones. Jones won the U.S. Open at Scioto in 1926, and Charlie happened to see all that. And I think that set a standard from Charlie on down to Jack.
But the torrid pace set by Jack would slow. In the 3 years after Muirfield, he won only one additional major. His work ethic had declined, along with his game.
About that time of my career, I really expected to win. I expected every time I teed it up to go out and win. I sort of felt like, you're a pretty good player. You probably don't need to work this hard. And I mean, that's a bad thing to be. It's a bad thing to have that happen to you, to go through a situation where you sort of get a little too relaxed and too confident in yourself. And sometimes it takes a while, and you have to give yourself a little kick in the rear end and, get it going again.
But the kick he got was not the one he was looking for. In October of 1969, Charlie Nicklaus was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. 5 months later, he was dead. The man that had given Jack everything was gone. It created a sense of guilt.
I think he felt like he'd let his dad down. He'd sort of relied on his talent and hadn't worked at his game and hadn't really done anything, and he felt bad for his dad, really, that he had kind of let his dad down.
4 months on from his father's passing, the Open returned to St Andrews. Charlie's hero, Bobby Jones, had won the second of his 3 titles there in 1927, and 43 years on, Jack had the opportunity to do the same.
To be a great golfer, you must win at St Andrews. And this is something that a lot of people had said, but Mr. Jones had also said that to Jack.
And so I got back to work, and really the best part of my career really was stimulated by what happened here in 1970.
Jack staged a revival in form at St Andrews, but one stroke behind at the finish, he could only watch as Doug Sanders stood 3 feet from victory on the 72nd hole. The tension was tangible.
Missed it, yes, certainty. Yes, that's the
I felt badly for Doug. I mean, it was a tough situation and a situation where a putt does break hard to the right, and he did it. You know, but it could have been a putt any other hole. You know, it just happened to be the 72nd.
It was one of the luckiest breaks of Jack's career, and he was determined not to waste it. In the 18-hole playoff, Jack opened up a commanding 4-shot lead, and although Sanders would reduce this to 1, it was too little too late. As Jack smashed his tee shot at the last through the green, his emotions began to run away with him.
It was very unusual for me. It was probably the first time that I really had a spontaneous reaction to what had happened. I was so pleased to have won at St Andrews that all of a sudden the ball went in, the putter just went, you know, it just went flying, and I darn near bopped Doug on the head.
After 3 long, hard, lean years, Jack Nicklaus had joined the privileged few that had won an Open at St Andrews. But nothing, no claret jug, no green jacket, could ever fill the void left in Jack's life by Charlie's death.
You know, you think your parents will be there forever, and you certainly don't expect to lose your dad at 56. And I think it was like a big shock. It's like, okay, I'm it now, and I've got to grow up, and I've got to make him proud. And I think he always looks back at that and thinks, this is for you, Dad.
Jack's second Open Championship victory triggered a decade of dominance by the American. In 1972, Jack was at the height of his powers, and when he overcame Lee Trevino in the 1972 US Open at Pebble Beach, the 32-year-old was halfway towards an unprecedented season Grand Slam. The third leg was the Open at his beloved Muirfield, and once again his opponent was Lee Trevino.
I'm just following the crowd.
Every great champion like Jack Nicklaus is always going to have competition, but we never overtook Nicklaus. Nicklaus dominated us. We beat him, sure. He didn't win all the tournaments, sure. He didn't win all the majors, won most of them. We controlled him once in a while.
I got a caddy, don't know where the hell he's going either.
Chronic neck pain was the cause for an unexceptional opening 3 rounds from Jack. But on the final day, the pain had eased, and the Golden Bear came out of hibernation.
Going into the last round, he's 5 shots back. On the 11th hole, he caught us.
And Jack said he bawled. I mean, he virtually bawled like a baby. That the emotion just got him that he had done this and he was in the hunt again.
When Jack won his first Open title at Muirfield in '66, he finished par, birdie, par. A similar run-in would ensure his 3rd title and take him 1 step nearer the Grand Slam. Jack finished valiantly, but bogey par par would only set the clubhouse target at 5 under. Trevino, 1 shot to the good, was going for back-to-back Open wins, but at 17 was struggling to salvage par. Call it wizardry, call it good fortune. The ball dropped, and with just the 18th to play, Jack's destiny was out of his hands.
He went into the locker room. It's a fact. He sits down, he's taking his shoes off. I had an 8-iron. I remember it like yesterday. Pin was back left. I had an 8-iron to the green. And they said that Jack was looking at the television as I was swinging, and he watched my swing. Never saw the ball. And they said as soon as he watched the swing, he turns back down and starts taking his shoes off. And the guy says, "You're not going to watch the ball?" He says, "I don't have to." He said, "I watched the swing." And I hit it about 7 feet behind the hole. Two-putted, won the tournament.
Well, you know, I think it was the best chance I ever had. And yeah, sure, I was disappointed from that standpoint, but the disappointment is not that I lost the golf tournament. Its disappointment is how I performed and lost it. I really had control of my own destiny and didn't make it happen.
Words of encouragement that Jack has given me in the past couple of years seem to be paying off. I know he probably wished he'd have kept his mouth shut. Probably a couple, but this is the way Jack Nicklaus is he tries to help as many fellow golf professionals as he possibly can.
I really believe that if he would have parred 16, birdied 17, he'd have won that golf tournament. And I don't think there's any question in my mind he wouldn't have won that other one. He would have won the Grand Slam. I wished he would have beaten me there just so I could have watched this. Oh yeah, sure.
No modern player has dominated the Open in quite the same way Jack did in the 70s. He not once finished outside the top 5 and was runner-up a staggering 4 times.
He was there. In the tournaments he didn't win, he was there. In the majors, the ones that meant the most. How many times did he finish second and third in major championships? Come up with a number there.
But of all Jack's near misses, the 1977 Open at Turnberry was arguably the greatest of all. The duel in the sun between Nicklaus and Watson was the battle the media had predicted, and never have they got it so right. On the final day, Watson holed from distance the 15th and went ahead for the first time 2 holes later, when Nicklaus missed from just 5 feet. Watson looked to have sealed the deal with a magnificent 7-iron approach to the 18th that nestled in close to the flag. The crowd thought it was all over with every justification, but Nicklaus, a shot adrift, did not capitulate.
He was sitting in grass about that deep, about that far from the gorse. The toe end of his club, if it moved that far, he didn't have a shot. But knowing Jack Nicklaus and how he could hit the ball out of the rough, he was the best who ever did it. Big wad of grass came out of there and flew up about 10 feet in the air. And the ball came out, and then the charge was on.
Almost 20,000 spectators scrambled over the dunes of Turnberry that day to witness these 2 great rivals battle it out to the bitter end. They jostled for position around the 18th green as Jack, having produced a miraculous escape from an almost impossible lie, settled over his birdie putt. The rest, they say, is history.
I took a lot from Jack's book by watching him on the golf course, playing golf with him in competition, and it helped me learn how to win. We're walking off the green, Jack grabs him by the neck and he said, "I gave you my best shot, but it wasn't good enough. Congratulations." Jack, always gracious in defeat, as he was in victory.
His father was very insistent about that in bringing Jack up, and he stuck with that, and he's a wonderful winner, but he's by far the best loser I've ever seen. Unbelievable. Just so unbelievable, and it's from the heart. It's not an act.
This is probably my greatest thrill in golf, beating Jack Nicklaus like this. And I'm sure that it won't be my last confrontation with him, and I'm sure it might come out different the next time we play. If Jack has anything to say about it.
I know that you're not going to win every time. And there's times when guys beat you, and there's times when you blow it yourself. Most of the time, it happened where somebody beat me, but there were 4 or 5 times in there that I blew it myself. I had enough opportunities to win golf tournaments. A person who was as dominant as I was supposed to have been should have won more.
12 months on from the disappointment of Turnberry, Jack headed back to the home of golf, only to find himself in yet another gripping Open Championship finale, this time with New Zealand's Simon Owen. Like Watson in '77, Owen produced a wonder shot at the 15th, and with just 3 holes remaining, Jack was one down.
Jack Nicklaus was the best that ever lived under pressure. I never saw anybody that could play like Nicklaus under pressure. Hogan, Tiger Woods, these guys were exceptional, but Jack, what a mind.
Nicklaus had so much talent and, was so kind of centered that as good as he was, it always seemed to me that he was number one almost effortlessly. It it wasn't a great price that he paid. It didn't take its toll on him.
With a steely resolve, Jack birdied the very next hole. Owen made bogey, and when another shot was dropped to the 17th, victory belonged to Nicklaus. With a two-shot cushion, Jack was left to savor the moment. And what a moment it was, as vivid today as it was then.
It was absolutely wonderful. The people absolutely got me so emotional, had a hard time playing. And I remember walking up the 18th fairway here, my caddy Jimmy Dickinson. Jimmy was a great guy, and he was a great supporter, and he just, he was a rock as he was with me. And Jimmy, he says, "Come on, Jack," he says, "we've got a hole to play."
At 38 years of age, Jack had won his third and final Open Championship to become the only player in the history of the game to win each of the Grand Slam titles 3 times or more. The reception he received reflected his accomplishment.
I think he got the warmest reception in his early professional years from the Scots, from any group of people. I think they took to Nicklaus faster than many American fans. He realized they understood the game tremendously well, so he fell in love with the whole Scottish deal.
To me, said Jack, the Scottish people share many of the characteristics and values of the Midwesterners I grew up with. And on his next visit to St Andrews in 1984, the bond between Nicklaus and the town was formally recognized when he received an honorary doctorate from the university. And this year, as Jack prepares to say farewell to the game, the Royal Bank of Scotland, who have been issuing banknotes since it first received its royal charter in 1727, has issued 2 million commemorative notes featuring Jack.
I'm flabbergasted by it. I can't believe it's such an honor to take a foreigner and bring him into your country and put him on a banknote. It was very, very special. And that's some honor that I'm very proud of.
So the nation Jack holds so dear confers on him an honor normally reserved for kings and queens. And now the hallowed turf of St Andrews prepares to stage his farewell to the home of golf and the game of golf, leaving us to savor forever a career that yielded many victories, but more importantly, gained the respect of all for the manner in which he won them. Jack Nicklaus and son Steve will share a unique emotional farewell as they cross the Swilcan Bridge for the final time.
I think Steve is here to be with his dad in his last competitive event. We talked about it last year, and I said to him, I'm going to try to play the Masters, and I was going to definitely play the British Open. He said, Dad, Jackie and I have talked. He says, Jackie, I'd like to have the Masters, and I'd like to have the British Open. I says, you got it.
Well, it's the home of golf, and it's I don't know, it's a beautiful place. I think it's probably either Augusta or St Andrews is probably my dad's 2 favorite golf courses. It's a great place, and it's just a great atmosphere.
Having turned professional some 43 years ago, Jack Nicklaus has accumulated arguably the most enviable record in sport. St Andrews 2005 is our chance to acknowledge that and salute the greatest golfer in the history of the game.
I'd love to continue to play golf, but I just, can't. I don't think I should, because I can't compete, but it's something that I've thought about. Champions stay on too long. I've stayed on longer than I should stay on, although I've actually played reasonably well through the years, but not well enough to really compete. It's been a long walk, a long time, a lot of years, a lot of great things, and I just felt like this was the place that I wanted to end my golfing career, was here at St Andrews. I don't know why I feel that way, but it just seemed like it was more special. I've always felt like this is the home And if I'm going to end my career, I'd like to end it at the home of golf.
Jack, the Open Championship, in association with RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland Group.